What is going on, everyone? This is Ninja Geek here, and we're bringing you, of course, another episode of my Walking Dead review series, and we're going to be talking about, of course, episode 5, Now, as the title is called. So, let's get right into this. Of course, with last week's episode of The Walking Dead, we found out that Morgan hears something. It was kind of faint. We didn't really know what it was until we saw the preview for next week's episode, which we saw last week, which is obviously this week's episode of Rick obviously calling out, and we found out that it's Rick's voice. So in the beginning, obviously, we see Rick, and he obviously escaped that RV from the previous episode before last episode's. So he did escape indeed somehow. I don't know how, but he just did. And the way that the area was shot in that sequence was it was using a lot of slow motion, and I think the reason behind the slow motion behind that was because of it was going through Deanna's process. As we saw in the beginning of this episode, Deanna was kind of walking up, remembering she's still kind of lost because obviously of what happened to her husband. She didn't expect that at all. It was just kind of like hitting a wall in her life, but she's got to go over eventually that wall, and she's just, right now, I think she's just at that wall just staring at it, stuck because she doesn't know how to move forward, even though she wants Alexandria to move forward with better leadership, as we get into later when she wants Rick to take over Alexandria and lead these people into a better place, I guess you would call it. But for now, she's still kind of lost, and I think the slow motion kind of expresses that within this episode, where we see the slow motion Rick's running, open the gate, he's like running forward obviously, and that I think that all has to do with her mind and how she's seeing the situation that is ahead of her. Then when they get back inside, or when Rick gets back inside the wall, I should say, everyone's kind of huddled around. They're kind of obviously scared. I mean, there's a horde of walkers outside, but Rick says, okay, everything's going to be okay because Daryl's out there. We got Abraham, Sasha, and they're going to lead the rest of them out like Rick's plan was said to do, even though it did get interrupted. They were going to come back and obviously fix this problem. Hopefully, that's what the new plan was for Rick at this point. And also, I'd like to point out that we were right in predicting, obviously, not really predicting, but knowing for the fact that Aaron actually led the wolves to Alexandria in some way, because as we saw in season 5, he left the pictures there in that barn that they were in, and then when Daryl and Aaron went out to scavenge, they kind of left his bag there. The bag was just carried around everywhere with them. We kind of saw the pictures back from season 5, but Aaron took them with them on their run when Daryl and they went and they accidentally tripped the wolf thing in season 5. So when that happened and they were going scouting, and that it just led the wolves, they found these pictures, okay, let's do this and that, and Aaron actually obviously admits that he was the one that caused this, so he feels kind of guilt on his part, because it wasn't all Morgan's fault for leading the wolves there. That was a question on Talking Dead actually a while back. Do you think that it was Aaron's or Morgan's fault, or it was either just Morgan's fault or whatever, but Morgan, I don't think, had anything to do with the wolves coming there. It was just, they were kind of separate. Aaron and the wolves definitely had a contact because Aaron had pictures of this place, and he kind of led them there unintentionally. He didn't say, hey, come on, let's go, but, it did happen, and so he admits to that, and he kind of has to go through that guilt, and he talks through that guilt later on when we get into it. But for now, after this, Deanna's still kind of lost. She starts drawing out a map of what's, planning out, I'm guessing, where everything is, like Alexandria and how it should be. That's my complete guess, because I think there were other languages on this map that she was drawing, but so she's trying to regain herself until her son Spencer comes in drunk and just tells her basically that you ruined everything and you're the cause of everything that happened here. I mean, obviously not the right thing to say, but Spencer is drunk, of course, at this point, so it's not like his mind is his actual mind. It's most likely his drunk mind. So I guess we're just going to have to live, or Deanna has to live with that going forward. Obviously she knows it's her, but she's trying to move past that, and Spencer just completely blocked her off there. But again, he's drunk, he doesn't know what he's talking about, probably won't even remember that moment when he looks back at it later. But moving on with the episode, let me just say this first of all, in my own opinion, I honestly hate Ron. Probably a lot of people do. But I honestly hate him. I don't know why he's even still here, conflicting. He has problems with the Rick's group. He has problems with understanding how they work. And that's just basically it. But then we get into a situation where Carl wants to go outside of the wall where all the walkers were to try and save Enid, who we know obviously left a couple episodes back. We don't know obviously where she is. I kind of have a feeling she's going to come back in some way, maybe. I'm not entirely sure on that, but Carl insists on going outside the wall and going into where all the walkers are, trying to capture Enid. Complete terrible idea. That's an awful idea, in my own opinion. So Ron is right there that you shouldn't go outside the wall, and even if it is for someone. If you know for sure that they were out there, like if you knew for sure that they were outside and trapped, maybe Carl would have had the right idea, but he doesn't know. He's just going out there blind, hoping to expect to see Enid in some way. So I honestly think Enid left the group for that reason, that she just wanted to be alone. So she's not actually trapped out there. So Carl's just going to basically be going out there for no reason, risking his own life. So in this case, I actually agree with how Ron sees things. And Ron, I don't know if he's pretending or if he's actually being. At first when I, saw Ron go up to Rick and say, oh, I want to learn how to shoot. Oh, by the way, this happened. And, he's telling him the truth and all that. I don't know if he's actually just blubbering just to make it seem like he knows what he's doing, or if he actually is believing in how Rick sees things, which I hope he is. I hope Ron from this point can turn into an actual asset instead of an asshole, in other words. So, that's really it on Ron, so hopefully he gets better until this point. Next we see Maggie and her kind of scene where we got some hints before about what was going on and why we didn't see much of Glenn and Maggie, and because they obviously, Glenn had to go out with a couple of runs and stuff like that. So now here in this episode, we see Aaron and Maggie, and Aaron wants to help Maggie out because obviously we don't know if Nicholas, or they don't know if Nicholas or Glenn is alive, and practically we don't even know if Glenn is alive. Nicholas is dead, of course, but they don't know that. And Maggie just feels like she needs to know at that point in time where Glenn is, because she finally admits that she is in fact pregnant. Now, we don't know when she happened to get pregnant or when she found out, but we know now. There was other hints along also in other episodes that kind of hinted towards something like that, but it wasn't blatantly announced. It was announced in last night's episode that she was, so now obviously her hurting feelings about what's going to happen to Glenn. Personally, I don't know if he's coming back or not into the group, but I definitely know, obviously we already know that he's going to be coming back in some form in later episodes, so we're going to have to see about that. But Aaron tries to help Maggie and cope with that situation because they both feel guilt in one way or another. Maggie feels it with Glenn and how she should have been there for him when he obviously went out, and Aaron feels it, as we discussed before, with the bag and the pictures that he showed, and he's just guilty of the wolves coming there. So they're bonding together in this part when they actually enter into the sewers. And then we have Sam, aka the faggot. Come on, Sam, there's cookies down there that your mother made. Get your ass down those stairs and get those goddamn cookies. Jesus. Then we see Deanna get attacked by a walker. This walker was part of the wolves who Carol killed, but she said she couldn't find the body. And at this point in time, obviously she's carrying that pantry food that Spencer, her son, stole, while he was drunk, by the way, or getting drunk, or going to get drunk. She was probably returning that, and she ends up talking to Rick, who actually kills the walker, and she says, basically, I want you to take control of Alexandria because you know what you're doing. And, I personally obviously agree on that. Rick does know what he's doing. If the people of Alexandria would just go along with him and stay strong instead of trying to do other things that could possibly go against that, which so far there hasn't been, but I could definitely see that happening in the future. So that was the part with Deanna, and by the way, she's got to learn that you got to aim for the head. It doesn't work with the chest kill. Then at the end, we see Aaron and Maggie start erasing Nicholas and Glenn off the memory wall, which of course Nicholas is dead, but they don't know that yet. So, I don't know what their thoughts are. They're keeping hope alive at this point, trying to not pretend, but hope that they're alive, even though we know Nicholas is dead. In the viewers' minds, they just don't. So that was what happened there. We also see Rick I don't think he meant to do this at first as he's talking to Jesse, but he wanted to talk to Jesse about important matters, and it ended up turning into Rick getting it on with Jesse in the garage. So who knows what's even going to happen with that. Carl has just vanished, and Deanne is just even more lost in her own world. I mean, we see her at the end banging on the wall. There's blood on the wall, which obviously I don't know how that's explainable. It could come through the wall from different screws and stuff, as people have also mentioned that, but we still honestly don't know why that's there. And so the ending kind of leaves us with just a random blah image of, okay, Carl's gone. We don't know if he went out or decided to go out or not. We don't know if Rick found him going out or if Rick tried. We don't know any of that. But we just know that Rick is obviously with Jesse now, doing God knows what. Ron is out. I don't even know where he is. It's just a complete random ending, but it wasn't a bad ending. It just wasn't anything that kind of leads you into the next episode. It was kind of like a closure episode to something that you would see off a closing, and then next week we're probably going to get something different. We obviously see Daryl in next week's episode from the preview, so I'm excited to see what's going to happen with that, how he's managing out. It doesn't look that good from his perspective, but we'll have to find out next week. And that's it for this week's episode of The Walking Dead Reviews. Obviously, if you did enjoy, subscribe for more content, and I appreciate all of your support on all of my videos. This is Ninja Geek. I'll see you whenever my next video happens to be. I'm out. Peace.